Happy New Week, fam. What is going on? I hope you had a great weekend and you started off your week well. Yesterday we were off air, but we are back today and we'll be shooting till Friday. So I'm kind of restructuring the show. The days it's supposed to be Monday till Thursday. And then this week I was just preparing a bit more for our week and for the show. So as you can tell from the title, today we're looking at the cost of getting lean. Is it worth it? By the end of this video, you should walk away understanding or at least figuring it out for yourself. Is it worth the cost for you to get lean? Because a lot of people, when they first start working out, going into the gym, or getting on a diet plan, or they hire a personal trainer or coach, the goal is to get lean, to look toned, to get sculpted, to build muscle, and to get abs. That is typically what the average person is desiring when they first start working out. So today, what we want to do is really be honest with where we are and maybe help calibrate what it means to be lean. Is it worth it for you? Is that what you really, really want? Because there's a price to pay. And a lot of people don't talk about this, but there is a price to pay. And what you find is a lot of times walk into a gym, you open social media, wherever you are, everyone is talking about getting lean. And so what we'll do is we'll talk briefly about what it means to get lean, what it actually means in the real world. Because as we know, leanness is a dependent, there's a spectrum, there's a scale as to what being lean actually means. So we'll look at that. And then from there, we'll also talk about what's actually going on right now. So we'll also talk about GLP-1s. I've got a bit more information on GLP-1s, and we'll also review kind of what's going on because I believe there's a real epidemic when it comes to GLP-1s. And a lot of people are not discussing, or I mean, it's maybe for me, it's just so obvious because I've also worked in on the other side with drug companies and looking at the real world claims for these GLP-1s and understanding what it takes for it to be considered like a medication that humans can take so that it's approved for people to take. So I want to share a bit of that perspective and just going back to the actual data, what the actual data says about GLP-1s. And GLP-1s, I'm talking about your Ozempic, trizipatide, your Reta, and some of these GLP-1 agonist drugs, they have a use case, but it seems like a lot of people are trying to overextend that use. And that is something, if you've considered, if you've considered taking any weight loss medication, taking any GLP-1s, taking any peptides, if you've considered that, you need to watch this video till the end because it's probably going to save your life. It's going to save your health. And maybe if you know someone who's already taking it, might solve their health too. So let's look into it. Let's look into a show. So I also have a blog. So we're going to be reviewing a blog post that I actually wrote on this because sometimes, when you're speaking and you're talking on a live stream, a lot of times we there's different thoughts that come at any point. So I just wanted to make sure that we have some sort of like way to follow this so that you don't get lost because sometimes I do like to ramble about different topics and subjects. So we'll look at the blog post and kind of help guide the conversation as well. And I wrote this, it's on my website as well. So we'll use this to kind of guide our conversation as we go through this together. So let us get going. Let us get going. Okay. So I'm pulling this up. So we got, okay, so right there, we've got our Topic for today: the cost of getting lean. Is it worth it? Is it worth it, fam? Is it worth it? So, what is the promise? So, most times when we're talking about being lean, we're actually talking about like having visible abs, a sharp definition, low body fat percentages. And a lot of times, what we find is that we don't really focus on the real things when it comes to training because the leanness is one aspect, right? But we don't talk about strength, we don't talk about longevity, we don't talk about resilience. It's always about leanness when you're starting out. So the leaner that your body appears, the more successful the transformation seems to be. So that's one of the things that I think we really have to focus on. And today we really want to talk about the cost. What is the cost? Are you ready to pay the cost? Are you ready? Because if you're not honest with yourself, because this is one of the parts where if you're goal setting, if you're not realistic with your goals, you'll find that the goals that you set are going to be hard to attain because you're not making progress. And when you don't make progress, most times it means that your goals maybe need to be adjusted because they're not realistic based on circumstances, based on your lifestyle, based on where you are in your life. Okay, I think we're back. Okay, we are back. Okay, connection back. I think we had a drop off there. Okay, so connection is back. Okay, so what we want to see is okay, so are we really working with reality? Because a lot of times we set these goals based on what we want to look visually, how we want to look visually. And sometimes we get misled by influencers who also post pictures online. And some of the people are also photoshopping their images and their pictures, and they exaggerate how they look. And a lot of times, when people are talking about being lean, it's sort of like a phase that you go through. It's not really that they want to stay there because they might be trying to get lean for a particular event and they either competing in a bodybuilding show or they have a sport that they're competing in that they need to get in shape for, or they have a wedding or they have some social event that they want to attend and they're looking to drop a couple of pounds because they want to fit into some dress or some suit. So the idea of being lean is not really the final destination for everyone because it takes work to stay there. So we want to look at that. And yeah, and most times like when people post pictures, they're also posting pictures for a specific photo shoot. And I tell you, a lot of people they'll get lean, the people that are like on social media and online, they will get lean for whatever event that they're getting lean for. And after that, once they get lean, they capture those pictures, they take the pictures, they take as many pictures as they want or as they can. And after that, then they just keep posting those pictures. It's not that they maintain that leanness year round. Same as me, like I've competed in bodybuilding, I've gained weight intentionally just to show that it's possible that you can lose the weight. And I lost the weight 60 pounds in 6 months. And by doing that, like I was just like, okay, this actually works. But I also got to understand for someone who's maybe a bit overweight than what they would ideally want to be, that yeah, sure, like your body can make you think that you're not as confident because you're just overweight, it's harder to move, and your clothes maybe don't fit as well, and you kind of look puffy, you look chubby. So there is a definite discomfort that comes with that. And because it comes with that, it doesn't mean that you also have to go like to the other extreme where you get super lean. Sometimes it's just reducing your body fat maybe by 5-10% for you to look good. It's not always about being the most lean person because it is also coming at a cost. It's going to be requiring a lot of work, a lot of discipline, a lot of structure. And sometimes it's hard to sustain for so many years, unless if your genetics also allow and your lifestyle, like the work that you do. And so there are different factors that also come in. So what we want to do is really think about, okay, what does body fat actually contribute to our health? Because sometimes we talk about being lean because we think that fat is the enemy. We think that fat is the enemy. But we need to realize that fat has a very specific function. So if you caught the other stream last week when we talked about how fats contribute to cell production and also your hormones, excuse me, and your hormones. So those are different uses for fat in your body. So you want to make sure that if you are going to lose weight or cut fat and burn fat, you're also making sure that your body functions are not getting compromised. Because the moment you compromise and don't eat enough fat in your diet, you're going to have to pay a cost. You're going to pay a price. You're going to pay a price. So we want to make sure that we are eating enough and we are being healthy about our diet and our expectations when it comes to losing weight and becoming lean. So some of the things that we will cover is your hormone production, how fat contributes to those biological processes. And we often ignore these because we just want to achieve this aesthetic goal. So we've got a hormone production, temperature regulation, energy storage, immune resilience, and reproductive health. So these are core processes that are supported by body fat. And the moment you compromise or you try to get too lean, you are paying the price. And one of these processes, biological processes, are actually suffering because you want to get lean. So most of the times we we think that whatever we're doing the best thing for us. So like I said, like getting lean is temporary by design, right? So you want to look at being lean as a temporary mechanism. So okay, so we talked about this. Okay, so athletics, it's really about strategy. And yeah, and so like leanness shouldn't be the goal overall. Like even though it improves your markers, greater strength improves markers, but it's not the main thing. And also your strength increases, but then drops at a certain point when you get too lean, when you don't have energy. So the trade-offs that we need to talk about, right? So in many cases, excess body fat improves health markers dramatically. Blood sugar regulation improves, inflammation can decrease, mobility and cardiovascular capacity can improve. Those are the things that will help your body when you get lean. Those markers improve dramatically, right? And it also depends like, okay, where are you starting from? And where are you trying to maintain or where are you trying to get to, right? So when you do it too much, you're going to start suffering from low energy and recovery starts slowing down. So now, yeah, so these are definitely like the main things that we want to look at. Okay. So body fat. So we want to look at your body fat percentage. Like what does it actually mean to get lean? So there's a breakdown for body fat percentage, right? To see what does it actually mean. And for men and women, it's different. The body fat percentage is different. So first of all, when we look at like men, the ranges that men should aim for and strive for it. So you want to figure out like, okay, what body fat percentage do you really want to get to? Because a specific body fat percentage will determine how your body responds and adapts as well. So when we're looking at men, the ranges that often look something like this for like body fat percentage and healthy to lean, right? If you're over these numbers, you're probably getting towards like obese. If you're like over 25, I'd say like 25, 30%, you're obese, like you're quite there. So you want to do something about that. But 18 to 22 generally considered healthy, sustainable range, and 12 to 15 visibly lean, abdominal definition often present. 8 to 10, a very lean, typically requires careful maintenance. So, right, yeah, 8 to 10, when you're talking like 10% and below, you're now talking about maybe someone can consider going on a stage to compete in a bodybuilding show. So if you, especially if you're natural, it's much harder to go past like the 5%, 3% body fat percentage because it takes a lot to really dial it in to get to that level. So as I can tell, I can show you here. I've got an image here. Let's see. I think I showed you in one of the in the last stream what we had. So this is the comparison for me right here. So I dropped down. I would say like maybe this is like 7, 8 body fat percentage. Over here I was like 10, 12. I didn't really like measure, but you can still see the difference here. So this is not necessarily all body body fat, but it definitely is a lot of water weight that I was still holding on, right, between the two shows. So when you strip down your fat, you're gonna have some visible abs, right? So if we're looking at this using this marker here, so visibly lean abdominal definition and often present, and 8 to 10 visibly lean typically requires careful maintenance. So definitely this was like now 8 to 10. I dropped down, I was under 10. And yeah, but probably not anywhere close to like 5 or 4%, but definitely pretty lean and probably the leanest that I've ever been. And so this right here shows you that you can get there naturally. But it does require work because over here I was struggling to maintain this alone because before this competition I actually went out and had a pizza before this competition. But no, I didn't go out, but I ordered a pizza because I was struggling to just keep up with my diet. It was tough and I didn't have a coach. I was doing it on my own, so support wasn't really there. And over here, I had hired a coach, and he helped me get really lean and dial in everything. So that was in 2016. But again, more recently, this was just last year. So as I was saying, like I did gain a bit of weight, right? This was intentional. I got to like 204 pounds, right? Like this was 204, and this was me dialing it in. So I got to probably about like 9 body fat percentage. This was me dialing it in. And this is the difference, right? So like it's possible, like your body will adapt and adjust. Was I happy with this level of body fat? No, I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy. I could tell that I was putting a lot of strain on my body and movement was getting a bit harder. But at the end of the day, I recognized and realized that I could actually drop down and actually go to a body fat percentage that I could manage consistently over time. And it doesn't mean that I stay lean to that level, but I still put on a bit of weight. So instead of getting to like 204 pounds, I'll probably maybe get to like 170 max. 180 is like a lot for me. I can actually feel it. Like 172 is like 170 is also quite a bit. So I try to always bring it down and make sure that I'm like 10, I mean 15 to 20 pounds off the mark because I still need to refeed my body for those biological processes to take place. And I cannot stay in a caloric deficit all the time or year round. So I still have to maintain and make sure that my body is healthy. So you have to take care of your health. So it's not these idealistic numbers that you see people telling you on social media, on Instagram, but you just want to be healthy. So you want to balance it. That's why a lot of times, if you're natural and you're looking to get lean, you and also put on size, you bulk, you cut, you bulk, you cut. You kind of go, back and forth between the two. But the main thing is you want to be in control of that process. You don't want it to happen where you gain weight and you're not in control of that. But you want to gain weight when you're in control as well. And you understand how and why you're gaining weight. Not that you just gain weight all of a sudden, you look at the scale, you're surprised, you're like, oh, wow, how did I get to this number? So that's why it's so important to understand what is the cost to get lean because it's going to require some structure. It's going to require some things that you have to put in place for yourself. So that's it for men, and for women it's a bit different because women are responsible for giving life, giving birth, and their hormones are very particular and they require a lot more fat on their body. So imagine if they were to give birth, they want to have enough for the baby that they would give birth to, whether it's like the nutrients and production, cell production. So, all of those things are important processes. And women have that responsibility just by nature. So, they tend to have a bit more fat in general. And so, for healthier ranges for women, we're looking at 25 to 30% body fat, generally healthy and sustainable, and 20 to 24% body fat that's visibly lean and athletic. And 16 to 19 body fat is very lean for women. And below 16 is extremely lean. And if women go into like the below into the tens, they're like competing for a bodybuilding show. But that also disrupts their hormones for sure. That's going to disrupt their hormones. And you find that sometimes when women try and get so lean, they tend to develop a voice, a horsey voice, and some of their features start changing. And there's differences in how they look and maybe they can present themselves. Not to say it's for every woman, right? It's, this is dependent on what each person is doing and the lifestyle. So, in general, women want to stay in the 20s, 25. You're much healthier at that body fat percentage. And if women try and get, way below like 10%, it's gonna cause their bodies to compromise in some ways. And it could be compromising hormones, compromising with reproduction, right? Reproduction system, energy balance. It could be so many different things depending on the person, depending on the lifestyle. And brain fog could be another thing. So these are things that people need to take into account to say, okay, so if I'm trying to lose weight or get in shape, what exactly am I giving up? So, based on what leanness looks like to you, right? So, if you're a man, if you're a woman, you need to figure out, like, okay, what does a lean look like to me? What does that look like? And when you're clear on what leanness looks like to you, you will be able to determine, like, okay, so based on my genetics, based on your training, based on your body type, everything, and your lifestyle, like how does this determine what's your target for leanness and what price are you willing to pay? What price are you willing to pay? Because these are real questions. These are the real questions. And maybe the question shifts after this. Maybe the question is now, what kind of lifestyle do I want to sustain? Maybe the focus is on the lifestyle and it shifts. It's not about just being lean, it's about what you do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, over time. What does that look like? Who do you become? Maybe it's about your identity shifting based on your actions instead of how you look. Okay, so visual leanness is misleading, right? So when you have visual markers people use to judge leanness, the visual markers people use to judge leanness are surprisingly unreliable. Lighting changes appearance dramatically. So we talked about that, right? So we've got hydration, sodium intake, carbohydrate intake, muscle glycogen levels, skin thickness, genetics. And skin thickness is also a good thing because different people store fat in different places, different areas. And you find that people tend to store a lot of fat uh, on their butt, on their lower belly, behind their triceps. So those are different areas that people tend to hold a bit more fat in, and sometimes the skin is just different. Skin is some people have thicker skin than other people. So these are different genetic considerations to put in place when you're talking about leanness because you can't compare your leanness to someone else's leanness. It's different for everyone. I know body because that's the issue sometimes with bodybuilding because it's so subjective because to one person or one judge, one person looks maybe leaner and better looking than another person. And to another judge, that person is not as good looking. So they use different criteria. That's why you find there's always like disputes in terms of like people judging how people look based on the leanness because a lot of different things look different based on different factors, right? Like lighting itself just changes everything. So could be like the position that someone's looking at you in, or like the lighting that someone's looking at you in, what angle is someone looking at you in, um, looking at you from, sorry, not in, but looking at you from, and how much water did you have that day? So all of these things are factors because sometimes it's harder to tell, like, okay, is this person lean because they have a bit more fat, or is it that they're holding water weight? So all of these things start factoring in when you're talking about leanness. And just as I'm talking about this, right, just breaking this down already, you should be able to tell that you should already be able to tell that to maintain and understand every single thing here is going to require you to pay good attention and to try manipulate every single factor and every single variable here is going to be very difficult because one day maybe you just eat more carbs than you should or you have more sodium than you should and your body absorbs more water and you're like, oh, I look fuller. So those things are hard to like always consistently monitor, especially if you have other things that you want to get done in a day. Like if you're working, if you're going to school, if you have family, if you have friends, if you have other things that you want to do. So it's hard to maintain and keep up with that. So we talked about the ranges, right? And we are looking at the body. Okay, the ranges, we talked about that. Okay, so right here, okay, so ranges where energy is stable, hormones function normally, sleep quality. So that's kind of like the area that we talked about, right? Like in the ratio, the percentage percentage range. So depending on what range you're in, your body functions will be working well. But if you try get much leaner, it's gonna cause your body to adapt, and actually your body is gonna now have to compensate by taking that energy from somewhere else. And that's maybe potentially why people start feeling cravings, because something is not being sustained as it should. So it's always good to really think about, okay, what exactly am I trying to achieve? What is the body fat percentage I'm trying to achieve? Like, okay, is it compromising my recovery? Is it compromising my sleep? Because these are all real things and real challenges. So so like your metabolic adaptation changes, your hormones change, recovery changes, psychological makeup and understanding of your body changes because you're always looking at pictures, images, maybe comparing to other people. So these are challenges that you might face. So let's see. So right now, this is exactly what we want to look at. Okay, so getting lean is a phase. This is what we want to go through and just make sure that we're clear on this. So getting lean is a phase. Staying lean is a lifestyle. Exactly what we're talking about. So most people pursue a lean physique. Most people who, sorry, most people who pursue a lean physique do, blah, blah. Oh, what's going on? Let me drink some water right now. What's going on? Ah, ah. Okay, let's go. Most people who pursue a lean physique do so through a structured phase. Calories are reduced, training volume increases, meals become more controlled. During this period, motivation tends to be high. The goal is clear, progress is visible. The effort feels temporary. But once the desired body fat level is reached, a new question emerges. Can this condition be maintained without continuing the same level of restriction? For many people, the answer is complicated because the behavior required to reach very low body fat levels are often the same behaviors required to maintain them. And those behaviors can shape daily life in ways that are not always obvious at the beginning. So, hunger does not always disappear. The margin for error shrinks. Food becomes strategic. Social flexibility changes. Sleep and recovery can be affected. The mental bandwidth, identity trap. So, those are the how many things? Let's count those together. So the cost. Let's see how many things. Okay, so one, hunger does not always disappear. The margin for error shrinks. Food becomes strategic. That's three. Social flexibility changes. Sleep and recovery can be affected. The mental bandwidth, the identity trap. Yeah, mental bandwidth. Yeah. And yeah, so we've got seven things that we need to go over and consider. So let's look at number one. Hunger does not always disappear. So, one of the most consistent experiences reported by individuals maintaining low body, blah, maintaining low body fat levels is persistent hunger. This does not mean constant extreme hunger, but it does often mean that meals must be planned carefully to manage appetite. When body fat decreases, the hormones that regulate hunger shifts. Leptin levels decline as fat stores drop. Ghrelin, which stimulates hunger, can increase. These signals are not flaws in the system, they are biological feedback. The body interprets low energy reserves as a signal to encourage food intake. Maintaining leanness often requires managing those signals daily. For some individuals, this becomes routine. For others, it becomes exhausting. So right there, your hormones that regulate hunger, they shift. So the desire to eat doesn't change. It doesn't change. Your body still wants to eat food, even if you say that you want to get lean. So you have to manage your hunger. You have to manage your appetite. And this is what's leading people to take GLP-1s. This is one area. This is how they're trying to address this. Excuse me. This is how they're trying to address this. So this is something that I want to dig in a little bit more because when we talk about hunger, managing leptin levels and your ghrelin. So ghrelin, sorry, yeah. You you really want to take this seriously because that's also what causes people to wake up in the middle of the night to just say, I want to eat that, or I'm hungry, I'm going to order takeout. Because your body still requires all of that, whether it's sugars, whether it's sodium, whether it's carbs or fats, your body requires this. So to starve yourself and say that I just want to get lean, the question is, are you ready? Are you prepared? Because that battle is going to come and you have to be ready. And so we're going to move on because everything ties in together at the end of the day. So now we're going to look at the margin for error shrinks. So when the margin of error shrinks, when body fat is moderate, the body has flexibility. A larger meal one evening rarely causes noticeable changes. A missed workout does not significantly alter body composition. But at a very low body fat percentage, the margin for variation narrows. Small changes in intake or activity can produce visible shifts. This does not mean the body becomes fragile, but maintaining that condition requires more precision. Meals may need to remain consistent. Training may need to stay frequent. Energy intake must stay aligned with energy expenditure. The routine becomes less forgiving. That's exactly it. That's what happened here, right here. This is me with the pizza, right? This is like 3 weeks, right? I'd had like a pizza before, like I was a bit leaner. It doesn't mean that I was like this and then I went to this. No, I was still somewhere closer, but I was leaner than this. And then I had a pizza the week before. So like 1 week, I started my peak week early and I peaked too soon. So this is what you don't want, right? When you're trying to get on a stage to compete in a bodybuilding show. But if I was just living my life, like this would be fine. But just the fact that my body changed so drastically just by eating one pizza, it tells you something. It tells you that the margin for error shrinks because you're looking so lean. So you have to be ready for that. And the moment that happens, because even after the show, there's a rebound. In bodybuilding, you call it a rebound, where when you cut, you get so lean. And after your show, you start eating the normal food. But you also don't want to overdo it because your body is so sensitive at that point that you could gain 30, 50 pounds in such a short period of time because your body's trying to refeed itself and restore that energy that you were starving it. That's why the body sort of like swings the pendulum so so much in the opposite direction because you've swung it the other way. So it has to correct itself. So that is the danger when you're saying that I want to get lean. You want to figure out like what is a healthy body fat percentage that I can maintain as a lifestyle, not to just get lean for an event. Because I personally said like I'm not going to compete in bodybuilding anymore because I was just like, okay, this is too much. This cannot be good for your body because you're putting so much stress on your body. But you need to make it a lifestyle that is the fitness lifestyle, not try and do like one extreme. It's kind of like, running a marathon, like preparing for a marathon. You say, okay, I want to finish this marathon. Okay, once you finish it, what comes next? Because fitness and health is not about reaching a destination, it's about consistently following through and training forever so that you don't get sick, so that you stay healthy, so that you can move, you can do everything that you want to do with your friends, with your family. That is the goal for everything. It's about having that lifestyle, creating that lifestyle, forming that lifestyle. And that happens daily with your choices daily. So that is what we talk about, the margin for error. It shrinks and food becomes strategic, right? So at moderate body weight, body fat percentages or levels, eating can remain relatively intuitive. Meals satisfy hunger, energy levels remain stable. But when someone is maintaining very low body fat levels, food often becomes strategic. Meals are structured at around macros, portions may be measured, certain foods may be avoided, not because they're harmful, but because they may make maintaining body composition more difficult. This level of control can be useful during short phases of focus training or competition preparation. Over long periods, however, it can shape how someone relates to food itself. Eating becomes less about nourishment and more about maintaining a specific appearance. So, right there, like, I mean, I still think, and I think for someone who's trying to lose weight, so this one you have to take it with a bit more judgment, right? Based on where you are. And this is again about lifestyle. So I made videos on tracking your food, your meals, how important that is. So when you track your food and you track your meals, you're actually able to understand, okay, what am I eating? How many calories? So you have to know that at least because you can be intuitive about what you're eating before you track it and before you see how much you're eating. You cannot know it intuitively before you track. So you have to track, get used to it for some time, right? Let's say, for example, you've gotten to the point where you're like, okay, I'm lean. And once you get lean, you kind of know, like, okay, I use this cup, right? Let's say, for example, you've got this glass. I say, okay, I'm using this glass and that's what I'm using, right? And then, like, let's say if you have a lunchbox, like, okay, what am I measuring? Okay, I've got a container that I use to like meal prep, or you've got plates that you use. So those are consistent. And you now know how much you add, how much you don't add, so that you don't have to keep tracking everything in that way. But you're at least strategic in the beginning. Whatever goal you're trying to aim for, you're going to be strategic. You have to aim for a specific goal. And that's going to come down to tracking your food to begin with. And then after that, after you can be more intuitive, right? So that's what you want to see. That's what you want to see when it comes to being strategic. But you don't want to be obsessed. I'll probably call this obsession. You don't want to be obsessed, not strategic. Strategy is good. Obsession is a problem where it consumes you, right? So I think that's probably what I would how I would adjust that. Okay, so social flexibility changes, right? So food is not only biological, it is social. Like depending on what culture you come from, like you'll know, like okay, food. When people are eating food or specific foods, you know that it's food that brings people together. A lot of people share interests and commonalities just because they bonded on food, and food brings the people together, right? So meals happen at celebrations, family gatherings, work events. When someone is maintaining extremely lean body fat levels, navigating these situations can become more complicated. I face this when I was prepping for bodybuilding shows. I couldn't go out to dinner with friends, like there'll be like a birthday celebration. Boom. Maybe on the menu, you're like looking at it, you're like, okay, telling the restaurant, like, okay, can I just get like rice and chicken? And you can't have dessert, and it's not as enjoyable. And you go out and you're tired and you've got long days, and you're like, I want to go home. You're sleepy, you get sleepy fast. You want to go to bed. And you're drinking so much water. You're also drinking so much water as well to stay hydrated. And maybe at night you're using the washroom so frequently because you got to use the washroom. So your sleep suffers, your recovery suffers. These are all things that you will likely go through. But the question is, are you ready? Are you prepared to pay the cost? So, what is the body fat percentage that you're trying to get to? Is it sustainable? I'm not saying like just say don't do it because I'm supposed to be motivating you to go to the gym and work out. But what I'm saying is, let's be realistic and let's remove some of this pressure to take these drugs because it's not one factor that makes it all work. It's not just the GLP-1 drugs. There are more things that you're paying. So get this, right? So let's keep going. So sleep and recovery, I think we've talked about this. I kind of hinted on this, right, already. So low energy availability can influence recovery in subtle ways. When caloric intake remains low for extended periods, sleep quality sometimes changes. Some individuals report waking during the night, right? Feeling colder than usual. That's facts. Difficulty fully recovering between workouts, right? These effects are not universal, but they become more common as energy availability decreases while training remains intense. The body prioritizes essential functions when fuel becomes limited. Recovery is one of the systems that can be affected. So this is exactly the same thing that I've personally experienced too, because I tend to find that when I get super lean, I get very sensitive to temperature. Like I'm like, yo, who turned down the temperature? Like who's adjusted the temperature, the thermostat, right? Because even if it's like by 1 degree, like I can feel it's like I feel the change in temperature. Just by 1 degree, I'm like, I gotta get a jacket. I gotta turn up the heat a little bit. This is because you're so lean or you get so lean where you're now compromising the system. Your body has to compensate because the fat helps to keep you warm. And so, like, when this happens, like, if you're drinking a lot of water, you're waking up during the night and you're going to use the washroom because you're drinking so much water, your body's trying to also, like, maintain your body temperature and maintain, we call it homeostasis. Yeah. So, you want to maintain your body temperature and all the processes in your body. Homeostasis. That's the word. That's what we call it. Like temperature, your breathing, your digestion, all of these bodily functions that you do involuntarily, those need to be maintained. And now the mental bandwidth. So perhaps the most overlooked cost of maintaining extreme leanness is cognitive. When body fat levels are very low, food and body composition can occupy more mental space. Questions may arise regularly. How many calories were in that meal? Did I hit my macros today? Should I add another workout? Will this affect my body composition tomorrow? For some individuals, this level of awareness feels empowering. For others, it becomes a background noise that never fully quiets. Mental bandwidth that could be directed toward work, relationships, or creativity becomes partially occupied by food management. Boom. So, this mental bandwidth, that's why I like the tracking, the tools, my fitness pal, heavy, any workout app, any food tracking app, just put it all in there. You don't have to keep it on your mind. Whatever you're doing, you just put it there. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to keep the load. But for some people, they might start thinking, okay, should I adjust my goals? Should I adjust this? Should I adjust that? So when you're trying to get lean to such a very extreme point where you're like below 10, 10%, it's going to require a bit more thinking about this. You worry more about this. But when you're like in your 20s, where one meal doesn't really make a big difference, you can have your ice cream. No one's going to notice that you've had your ice cream. And you're not overdoing it, obviously, but it's not going to be as noticeable. So you want to make sure that you're removing the mental bandwidth. But the leaner you try and go, the more you're going to have to focus on this. Even if you're tracking, even if you have somewhere where you're putting it, the more you're going to have to focus on this. Some people, this works. It's fine. For me, this part is kind of fine. Like I'm fine with this part. I'm not worried about the mental side because I just know how to work the numbers. It's not like I think about it. I keep it in my mind. I just know that it's just a calculation. I just have to work the calculation. I look at it as just data and math to say, okay, if I do this, if I say X, okay, this is the result that I'll get. That's just how I look at it, essentially. So whatever I set my goals at as in my trackers, that's just what I maybe. Hmm. Let's see, are we on? Oh, disconnected? What is going on? Are we back? Okay. I think we are back. I think it had disconnected. So yeah, so the bandwidth, as long as you keep coming back, right, you'll notice that the bandwidth is not going to be an issue, but it can be if you try get lean and you try keep going down. So your body fat percentage, you want to decide what is the reasonable body fat percentage you want. Now, we're going to look at the identity trap. So over time, leanness can also become part of your identity. Compliments reinforce the appearance. Comments from others may focus on discipline or dedication. The lean physique becomes a symbol of control. This can create subtle pressure to maintaining the same appearance indefinitely, even if energy drops, even if energy level drops, even if life circumstances change, even if routine that once worked becomes difficult to sustain. When identity becomes attached to leanness, adjusting body composition can feel like losing something more than aesthetics. It can feel like losing part of who someone has become. Like I cannot tell you enough like how I've gone through this, right? Because when you compete in bodybuilding or you do any sort of like competition, you take photos, you post photos, people start thinking that this is what you look like year round. And I'm like, nah, I don't look like that year round, right? Like I've looked like this after bodybuilding, right? I was this guy right here. And then I went to this guy. And then I went back to this guy. So it's like, who's this person? And then today I'm here and I'm closer to this guy than this guy. So I'm somewhere in between, but a bit closer to this guy. So this is a thing that, at times I find for people, we sort of get trapped into these places, right? Because we're like, okay, I want to get lean, want to get lean, want to get lean. But the moment you get lean, you achieve that and you say that I want to stay there, and then life happens, circumstances change, and different things can happen at any time. And the same things that you were doing to get you that lean, to maintain that, it becomes harder because maybe you get a new job, maybe you have a newborn, Maybe you get married, maybe you get into a new relationship, and you have other relationships that are forming that require your time, that require a bit more of your effort. And that can take away from you, which ties into the mental bandwidth. Now you have to track, now you have to do everything. You have to see, like, okay, am I getting enough sleep? Do I have enough food for the day? Right? Like all of these things tie back into each other. So you have to be honest with yourself. Is this what you want? Are you ready for this? Are you ready for the challenge? Right. So that's the identity trap. So again, like none of this means leanness is bad. So it's important to be clear leanness itself is not harmful, but reducing excess body fat often produces significant improvements in health markers. Cardiovascular health improves, body and sugar regulation stabilizes, mobility and energy increases. The issue is not leanness, the issue is assumption that the lowest possible body fat percentage is automatically the healthiest place to live. For many bodies, that assumption does not hold true. So the real question is, before pursuing extreme leanness, a better question might be asked, not how lean can I get, but how much of my life do I want organized around maintaining that condition? Because everybody composition comes with a cost. Everybody composition comes with a cost. Some costs are small and manageable. Others require a level of structure that reshapes daily life. Understanding that trade off allows people to make informed decisions rather than chasing target defined purely by appearance. And once the trade offs become clear, the conversation about leanness becomes much more honest. So that's exactly what I wanted us to really focus on and make it an honest conversation. Right. Make it an honest conversation because what I'm seeing right now, what I'm seeing right now is something I don't know how to put it. It's just give me a second here. Because what I'm seeing right now is something that a lot of people are being misled. A lot of people are being misled. And this part you need to listen very carefully because it, the people that are doing this, these are influencers, people with maybe millions of followers, and some people are like maybe doctors. They have credentials. I actually let me back up. I haven't seen doctors like proper medical doctors prescribing this, but or maybe not necessarily prescribing. Sorry, let me walk this back. Let's come back. Let's put a disclaimer here. What I'm about to talk about, I'm going to put a disclaimer. This is for education and entertainment purposes only. Okay, this is education and entertainment purposes only. What we're about to talk about. So, if you require any medical opinions, please consult a medical doctor, a health professional to help you with this. I'm going to talk about some medications, what actually works, what's actually going on in the industry, like pharmaceuticals, and what goes on behind the scenes, what's actually going on, and the truth that these influences that are just peddling peptides and GLP-1s, what they're not talking about when it comes to getting lean. Because one of the things that people are not really pointing out when it comes to GLP-1s, and I'm going to zoom in on Ozempic right now. We're going to zoom in on Ozempic as a GLP-1. So the main thing that I want us to look at is Ozempic right now is being pushed by influencers, fitness influencers, by the way. I haven't seen doctors really coming out saying, hey, take this. for weight loss, for lifestyle medication, as a lifestyle medication, because it's not for weight loss. Ozempic is not for weight loss. GLP-1s, as they are, how they approved, let me speak specifically in Canada, they're not for weight loss. They're not for what people are using them for. Yes, some people can get their hands on them. There's some people who will sell them, but that is not what they're approved for officially. Yes, humans can take them, but they're not officially approved for weight loss. So when Ozempic first came onto the market, I'll tell you a story, a bit of a story here. But when Ozempic first came on the market, we started seeing this pattern. This was when I was in insurance. We started seeing this pattern where this new drug came onto the market. And usually what happens is that when a drug gets approved, it gets a DIN, a drug identification number. That's how people can recognize what that drug is. And that DIN specifically is also shared with all insurers. So insurers will have that in so that they know what that drug is, if it's so that they can track anything with that drug, right? Like if claims are going up with a specific DIN, they see the cost, they see the consumption. Okay, so this is the volume, for example, and they can determine like, okay, what is the condition that it's used for? Is it being used for that specific condition? And a doctor's prescribing this medication for the appropriate condition. So when when it first came onto the market, we saw a spike. Boom. I don't know how people knew about this, but a lot of people were on it immediately. Boom. Now we're like, okay, what is going on? Because the drug costs are just going up. And then initially, because it's new, there's no regulation around it. There's nothing that's been put in place because it's new. No one knows. It's kind of like the Wild Wild West. When something is new, there's no regulation, there's nothing. Then what happened was people had to investigate to see, like, okay, what is going on? Right. And then it turns out people were using it for weight loss. But Health Canada had only approved it for diabetes. So what we had to do was like actually look at like Health Canada, right? Let's see. Just give me a second here because I think the light might need to put. Okay, so we had to look at Health Canada. So yeah, so like for example here, you have Ozempic, right? So this is like Health Canada. This is the official Canadian website. So when you go here, you will see the classifications for drugs and if they approved, reasons they approved, if there's any concerns, you'll see what the concerns are. So new drug submission for Ozempic, semaglutide, right? Like the active ingredients listed as well. And so this is what I was saying. So the DIN, right? These are the DINs, so the drug identification number. So when you look at this one, right? So this was submitted by Novo Nordisk Canada. And you can see here the market authorization was based on quality, chemistry, and manufacturing, non clinical pharmacology and toxicology and clinical pharmacology, safety, and effectiveness information submitted. Based on Health Canada's review, the benefit risk profile of Ozempic is favorable for the once weekly treatment of adult patients with type 2 diabetes mellitus to improve glycemic control in combination with diet and exercise in patients for whom metformin is inappropriate due to a contraindication or intolerance. Metformin, when diet and exercise plus maximal tolerated dose of metformin do not achieve adequate glycemic control, metformin and a sulfonylurea, sulfonylurea, sulfonylurea. I don't know how to say that one. Okay, I hope I was right. I was close. When diet and exercise plus dual therapy, when metformin and sulfonylurea do not achieve adequate glycemic control, basal insulin with metformin when diet and exercise plus basal insulin with metformin do not achieve adequate glycemic control. All right, so right there you can tell what it was approved for. Okay, so what was approved? So same thing. Ozempic as an anti-hyperglycemic agent belongs to a class of drugs called glucagon-like peptide GLP-1 receptor agonists. Ozempic was authorized for the once weekly treatment of adult patients with type 2 diabetes mellitus to improve glycemic control in combination with diet and exercise in patients for whom metformin is inappropriate due to a contraindication or intolerance. Okay, so this is what we're seeing. Okay, so this is what Ozempic was approved for, right? And Ozempic has not been studied with a combination of prandial insulin short-acting. Ozempic is not a substitute for insulin. So Ozempic should not be used in patients with type 1 diabetes mellitus, formerly known as insulin-dependent diabetes mellitus, or the treatment of diabetic ketoacidosis. Ozempic was studied in a limited number of patients 75 years of age or older. The safety and efficacy of Ozempic have not been studied in pediatric under 18 years of age populations. Ozempic is not indicated for use in pediatric patients. Okay. So right there, as you can tell, like most of these fitness influencers are influencing young teens, young people to take these drugs. And right now there's a gap. So already because people that are under 18, for sure, nothing was done to like achieve, I mean, to test, or there's no test group for those for that age group. So anyone who's under 18 shouldn't even think about these GLP-1s because these are new drugs. Like teens watching, like some of these, I mean, I guess influencers are pushing this, but they're not talking about this. This is the data. They tell you no, it's not harmful. They tell you, oh, people are taking too much, they're overdosing. It's not about overdosing. It's not just about overdosing. This is a new drug. No one knows. And the cases where like this gastric GI issues, so gastrointestinal, so like the intestines are suffering or something is happening to them. I don't know the exact things, like how those people were reacting, because they obviously don't release all the data as to what's happening, but we just know that they were having GI tract issues. And there's also like people with bone density issues where their bones are getting eaten up. So this is stuff people are not really talking about. And what happens again, it's like the psychology behind people who are maybe overweight to begin with is the actual problem, because when people now saying like, okay, people are taking overdosing on these drugs, it's not that they're overdosing because they don't know how to inject themselves. They overdo things. They don't have control over their food. Maybe they're overeating. And they feel like, okay, even if I eat XYZ, and if I go out with my friends, if I have my desserts or I overeat, maybe I can compensate with injecting more because I'll suppress my appetite and I don't eat. So that is not like a, oh, like I don't know how to administer. It's more of a psychological understanding and relationship between them and food. And now you're introducing a third party like this GLP-1 medication or this drug because they might think that they can get away with certain things. And that's why you find that sometimes with drugs and treatments, sometimes people require counseling when they're going through treatments. Even, for example, for cancer, people go through counseling. That's why it's so important for people to really think about this and not just take it at face value just because someone's saying like, okay, take this GLP-1 or it helps someone else, because you don't know what that person was suffering from. Maybe they had a condition, an actual condition, because there is still limited data on people who are like, I guess 19 to like 75. How's that going to disrupt your hormones? Because remember, you're suppressing your appetite. When you suppress your appetite, you're trying to reduce your body fat. Maybe you're not eating enough fats. Now you might impact your hormones as well and disrupt them. And your hunger signals are not there. You don't know when the ghrelin is asking you to eat. Like you're suppressing some of that. So that's because you need that response. You need to understand. You don't want to suffocate your hormones and not have them respond, because they work together. Because one hormone is like a signal that triggers another hormone in your system. They work together, and it might impact your reproduction. Because when you now suppress your hormones and you don't eat enough, maybe you suppress your test drops, your reproductive system is compromised. You now have low testosterone. Men, women, both. You can't produce enough eggs. Maybe you can't produce enough sperm. So these are impacts that can be caused by some of these medications, but we don't know yet. But this right here, what I just showed you, this is still coming from an official site. This is not Nate. Oh, Nate, I'm just saying things. No, I've seen this. I've seen this site plenty times. And this is the reality of what's going on with these medications. It's not to help you lose weight, because you still need to learn how to lose weight using diet and exercise, because it's a lifestyle that you're trying to shape. So the GLP-1s are not the answer. They're not the answer. Because even if you included GLP-1s, you still need diet and exercise. Use GLP-1s if your doctor tells you, like, okay, I've got type 2 diabetes and I need treatment. Because your doctor will know, not because you want to lose weight. Because what happens if you're trying to lose weight and manage your weight, yes, it's effective at that, but it also comes at a cost, because there is still a cost behind these GLP-1s. There is a cost. Someone who tells you no, there's no cost, like you'll be fine, you get away with it. There is a cost. Do not take it. It is not for weight loss. Yes, it works for managing your weight. It's effective, but it's effective under certain conditions. If you don't meet those conditions, there's a cost to pay. There's always a cost to pay. Because again, if your mental state and your psychology is not on point with understanding the relationship between food and maybe this GLP-1, because you're trying to develop a relationship with this GLP-1 to figure out like, okay, what's the dosage that I'm taking? How much do I take? Because you're trying to treat a condition that it's not approved for. That's why people now end up overdoing it again, because it feels harmless in the moment. For now, your appetite gets suppressed. For now, but damn, people, what is going on? What is going on? Let's look at, yeah, let's see. We had, what's this guy's name? Yeah, this was Greg. Let's see. Oh, what is going on? Okay. Yeah, let's see. There you go. Okay, is it natural? I want to see where. No, that's not it. This is where they start talking about these. Okay, so I want to see. This is Greg. Okay, so this is Greg Doucet, Doucet. You see, today I'm on a caloric deficit, so I haven't been eating enough calories. I'm also on a caloric deficit, so uh, I'm gonna have to take a meal before after this and go to the gym. But let's see. Okay, so there we go. Okay, what is the claim? Let's see. Yeah, this is okay. So okay, I think this is it. This is the one that I was looking for. I'm gonna fast forward this so that we go through this a bit faster. So play back. I know Greg already talks a bit fast. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so this is the part. Okay, so this is the bone one. Okay, so it's shredding bones. Let's see. Greg is justifying it. Yeah, I mean, okay, so this is the part. Exactly what I was saying. Like what Greg is saying is, as we saw that, you have to include your diet and exercise. It is the issue is people who are trying to get lean, who are trying to lose weight. The issue is like Ozempic is not this magic pill that's going to solve everything. It's going to help suppress your appetite, but it has a price to pay. So imagine if you weren't doing your cardio, you weren't eating, I mean, you weren't doing your cardio, you weren't eating healthy. Were your bones going to end up like that? Were your bones going to end up like that? Probably not. But the fact that someone's taking Ozempic and that happens, it means something. It doesn't, it's not this causation, right? Because yes, when you're doing studies, you can isolate groups and say, okay, these ones that work out and these ones that don't, what are the results? So you can do that study, right? So if there are people that are suffering from these things because they're not working out as, I mean, they said that for diabetes, they have to work out and make sure that their diet is good. So it means that if they hadn't taken that drug, but still didn't work out or eat healthy, their bones will probably be still healthier than what they are now. So that's why I say like studies still need to happen because we don't have enough information. So you don't go and start trying to be a guinea pig. Don't do it. Don't do it. Fitness has never been about that. Yeah, like that's I mean, again, this is what I was saying. Like he's saying this, but the issue is people already. I think this sort of covers everything, right? Like I don't want to get a strike on YouTube for playing his videos, but I think this is exactly what I was also pointing to with this because even if people take GLP-1s and they work out and they eat healthy, these drugs are not for managing your weight because other factors like your psychology around food, around losing weight, your relationship with the gym, your relationship with food is not going to be fixed all of a sudden because you took a GLP-1. That's not how it works. It's not like you can survive on a GLP-1. You still have to have a good relationship with food. So if you try to think that this is a shortcut, it's not. It is not a shortcut. And it doesn't end well. There is a cost. Say that you pay the real cost, the full cost, in a way that you're reasonable with what lean looks like to you, with what good looking looks like to you based on your genetics, based on your body type. You just have to be honest. Be honest. Like I showed you the scale, the ranges for body fat. So don't feel pressure that you have to be like some star who's like, bodybuilding or like Mr. Olympia, because most of these people are taking drugs and steroids. So to try put yourself on that stage, and if people tell you like, okay, these are not steroids, this is just effective for weight loss, don't listen to that because I almost fell for that at one point when people tell me, "Oh yeah, take Psalms, take Psalms, take Psalms." They're not steroids. Psalms are not steroids. They just mimic actual steroids. And I was like, I was a bit hesitant as well. And then I was like, okay. I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. I decided not to because I just felt it's just like, this doesn't feel right. It's just not the thing. And then I just didn't do it. And then now it turns out that it's bad. I've been at that crossroads. So if you think that maybe, you're trying to lose weight or you're trying to get to a certain body fat percentage and you just don't know how to get there, like send me a message if you've thought about taking any of these medications or any GLP-1s or peptides or any of these synthetics to try and help you lose weight or any form of medication to manage your weight, send me a message. Let's talk about it because I think this is going to be a big problem. Because if your psychology is not right, your relationship with the gym is not right, your relationship with food is not right, none of this is going to work. None of this is going to work. You're going to end up in a worse place than when you started. Because, like I said, lifestyle, things happen when you're trying to live a healthy lifestyle, when you're trying to manage your weight. Because you're going to have periods when things are just a bit busy. Maybe you can't go to the gym. It's not because you don't want to go to the gym. For someone like, let's say, Greg with some of these influences, this is their job. Their job is to go to the gym. Their job is to stay active. That is their job. But for someone else, maybe their time is being dedicated to starting a family, to a new job, to a new career. So in reality, you have to deal with reality, not try form an ideal world where you just take this drug and all of a sudden all your problems are gone. No, it's about forming a relationship and a lifestyle. That is how you build a lifestyle. It is forming a good relationship with the gym, forming a good relationship with your food. That is the lifestyle. That's what it's about. I don't know where we lost the plot to call it a lifestyle, like a fitness lifestyle. That's what we used to call it. It's a fitness lifestyle. Fitness lifestyle. It's not about achieving a goal like to just get there and then stop. No, you keep working out. Like, okay, if I go and I compete in one show, maybe I do a marathon this year. Maybe next year I do high rocks. Maybe next year I do triathlon. Maybe next year I do bodybuilding. Maybe next year I do something else. I don't know, boxing, right? But you want to see, you just want to stay active, do things if you're that kind of person. But the main thing is you want to keep active all the time. Eat healthy, make healthier choices, sleep, recover, go to the gym, come back from the gym, sleep, recover, go to work, play with your kids, go out on a date. That's what you want to do. That's what you want to do. Travel, go somewhere, move, do stuff. That's what you want to do. That is a healthy lifestyle. That's what it's about. Not these shortcuts. Because again, like you can be like 20% and still do those things and be healthier than someone who's trying to get to like minus 10 body fat percentage. You could be very well healthier. As long as you're doing your cardio, you're going to the gym, you're being active, you're moving, your heart is pumping, you're in motion. That's what you got to do. You just got to have motion. Motion. That's it. So, fam, I hope you enjoy this. I hope this was helpful. I hope this is going to help someone. Make sure to subscribe, share with someone who might need to hear this. And I look forward to chatting with you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow will be another video. And I think the stream is already up. And I'll be ready for you guys tomorrow. And I'll catch you guys. I'm going to have a meal. I'm going to have some food because I can already tell. Like already, my energy is starting to go down. This is kind of like at the end of the day, so I'll see you guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care. Cheers.